Hi, everybody. My name is Anjali Enjeti. I live outside of Atlanta in Georgia, and I'm here today to talk about my debut novel from Hub City Press. It's called The Parted Earth, and it's going to be released in May of 2021. The Parted Earth spans 70 years. It begins in the year 1947 in India, which was the partition of India into two nations, the Muslim majority Pakistan and the Hindu majority of India. So the story starts there with Deepa, who was 16 years old at the time and living with her family in New Delhi. It then traces the next 70 years through several countries, India, Pakistan, the Netherlands, England, and the United States, where we learn about Deepa's granddaughter, Shan Johnson, who was raised in the Seattle area by her white mother and had been largely estranged from not only her grandmother Deepa, but her father, who, when Shan was only 5 years old, decided to leave the United States and move to India, a country he had actually never lived in before. And his reasons to moving to India were completely mysterious to his daughter, Shan. So Shan ends up going on a quest to learn more about the Indian family that she knows nothing about, and the family who has a lot of secrets and mysteries that were rooted in the 1907 partition that Shan also doesn't know about. So the excerpt I'd like to read for you right now is actually a scene when Shan's father takes Shan to India for the first time. He had moved to India when she was only 5. In this scene, she is 10 years old. She has never been to India. She knows virtually nothing about her Indian family. And so in this scene, he takes her to visit the Taj Mahal in Agra. So I'll read my selection from here. "That's the palace where Emperor Shah Jahan ruled India," he said. "When Mumtaz died, he built the Taj Mahal here so he could watch over her from Agra Fort. When he died, they entombed him here with her." He paused. Isn't that a lovely thought? He never wanted to be apart from his wife. The truth of his statement stung. The emperor had never wanted to be away from the queen, but her own father had gone as far away from her and her mother as he could. "I never knew my father," he said. His gaze locked on hers. "Did I ever tell you that?" The words fell out of his mouth, landed with a thud between them. His father, her grandfather. She knew this, though how she came to know it escaped her. She had always seemed to know about this absence in her father's life, much the same way she always knew of her own father's absence in hers. "I've no idea what he even looks like," he continued. "I think about him every day, though." "Why don't you try to find him?" she asked. "I can't. I still don't know his name." He leaned over the railing, dropped his head to his chest. "He had a younger sister, too. I don't know her name either. Your grandmother refuses to tell me." Shan had just met her grandmother for the first time on their way to India. They had a 24-hour layover in London and stayed overnight in her drafty apartment a few streets over from Big Ben. She was rail thin with stark black hair, her forehead wrinkled like an accordion when she raised her eyebrows. A lit cigarette dangled from her fingers. She held it like some kind of stylish accessory to an outfit. Her grandmother had hugged Shan awkwardly, as if she hadn't quite known where to place her hands, patted her head a little too firmly. The next day, when she and her father headed out to catch the second leg of their flight to Delhi, their goodbyes had been just as awkward as the greetings. Shan couldn't imagine what it was like for her father to have had such a cold mother, and to never even know his own father. He had seemed oblivious to the fact that they shared this kind of sadness, of missing fathers. She wanted to shake him in that moment. His decision to move to India without her had been a selfish one. He did not see it as such, 5 years into his relocation, was wholly unaware of how his absence continued to hurt her, how it made her feel so lonely. For her 8th birthday, he had mailed her a globe, the earth parted by latitudes and longitudes, oceans and continents. She had measured with her hands the distance between Seattle and India. 9 hands. The sun never shone on them at the same time. He had moved so far away from her, he might as well have moved to the moon. When he lifted his face, his gaze traced the horizon, settled back on Agra Fort. "Nothing makes me happier than having you here with me now," he said. "No one has ever meant more to me than you." She smiled, her first of that day. If these rare moments were all they could ever have together, maybe it would be enough. At Agra Fort, a flag waved from one of the towers. The Indian flag, she imagined, the flag of her father's new country, the country where he felt he belonged, instead of the one where she, his only child, lived. She rested her chin on her forearms, squinted her eyes until the color of the fort blurred into a burnt sienna sunset. Thank you very much. The Parted Earth, my debut novel, is coming out in the spring of 2021 from Hub City Press.